Welcome to the 10th season of What's Eating Harlem. I'm your host, Tabitha C. Williams. Our show pays homage to the trailblazers of yesterday. We recognize the entrepreneurs who continue to be a mainstay in our community and introduce you to dreamers who are waiting to make their mark in Harlem. There's so much to see. Let's get started.
It's such a neighborhood spot, and we're a mix of people, but that's just New York in general. But when you come uptown, it's a totally different ballgame. You have people from all over the world just like here, and you have the ones that've been here, that've been living on this block generation after generation after generation.
In the heart of Harlem, we uncovered one of its hidden gems, Bono, where every dish embodies authentic Italian craftsmanship and flavor. Plus, we continue our journey through the Renaissance to Renaissance series at one of Harlem's most historic landmarks, St. James Presbyterian Church.
When you walk by outside in any area, when you walk by, especially in Black communities, you see these beautiful buildings and their churches. But when you come inside, there's sanctuary. There's sanctuary where you come together to gather when you are oppressed, where you come together to think about what you need to do to be community, when you don't have enough food, when you are trying to figure out what to do as a community, when you do lose a dime, how you do come together and support one another. That happens in sanctuary.
All of that and more.
This program was made possible by the Harlem Community Development Corporation and by the West Harlem Development Corporation. Solutions through collaboration. Also by the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce.
Longtime Harlem restaurateur Antonio Lobruto had a vision. He approached his daughter, Graciela Lobruto, with the idea of opening a restaurant of her own. Graciela, it's a pleasure to be sitting here with you.
Pleasure was mine.
So please tell me about this lovely establishment here.
So it actually was just out of coincidence. One day, my dad, he has another restaurant actually, so we've always been in this neighborhood, but he had a restaurant not too far off from here. And I would come after college and go have, lunch with him. And he's like, oh, there's this spot that I want you to go check out. I was like, all right. So we would come here with our brick oven pizza, sit outside, and it's just like, look at the spot. Like, let me know what you think. And I said, okay. So we would come here a few more times after school, and he's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, I love the people walking around. But I was like, Dad, it's so neighborhoody, but that's what we're used to. And being that my family has always had, not always, but in the past 30 some odd years, had restaurants in this area in Harlem, I just felt like it was just another part of home. And I was like, well, this looks great. And before you knew it, the kind of opportunity arose, and he was like, well, what if we open up a spot here? What if you, let's have you spearhead, you're the next generation, open up a spot in this corner? And I said, let's go. And so the opportunity kind of rose, and, we put our two heads together, something that was more traditional, something that was a bit more modern, but still with that kind of family feel. And we opened up Bono. And so actually at the end of this month, we'll be celebrating 9 years.
They chose the corner of 151st Street and Broadway, drawn to the vibrant, welcoming vibe of the neighborhood.
People say it time and time again, we're consistent. We're homey. You can tell that a family is behind,
But
the
let's
restaurant.
talk about your neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
You're up here on 151st.
Yeah.
How's your interaction with the neighborhood?
If we walk out, they know Papa, which means, dad in Italian. Then we have Papi, who's just the neighborhood, the neighborhood guy that walks up and down. He calls, my husband Pino, and Gratella or just Sweetie. And like, it's such a neighborhood spot. And we're a mix of people, but that's just New York in general. But when you come uptown, it's a totally different ballgame. You have people from all over the world just like here, and you have the ones that've been here, that've been living on this block generation after generation after generation, and they still have all their little kids coming, and they see us all the time, or planting their plants outside, and the kid wants to come by and help out, and we're like, yeah.
Which is similar to culture in Italy, right? Where you just have a multi-generational home or area, and it's my family's been here for such and such long.
Yeah, and my husband is actually from Italy, and that was the one thing that he clicked with here. He said, this makes me feel like home. And that's gonna make me a little like emotional, because I was just like, I want him to feel home. This neighborhood makes him feel at home.
So I'm sitting here and I'm looking at this beautiful brick oven.
Yeah.
And it's just something where I'm looking like, wow, it's not something that you see every day.
It's art. It's literally art. And I've known some other restaurants where they've like hidden it, but being that I can't even say flown it in because it came in by boat, but we brought it from Italy, which is from a small town outside of Naples, and to make sure that a family that makes these ovens with their hands, with bricks, with plaster, and to know that that's what we're gonna be making our pizzas in, it just brings a piece of home.
Here at Bono, they serve some of the finest Italian cuisine in New York City. Graciela takes inspiration from the simplicity of Sicilian food and the people who taught her the art of cooking. For her, food is about more than sustenance. It's about comfort, connection, and creating lasting memories. Staying true to this philosophy, they focus on simplicity and only use the highest quality ingredients.
We wanted to make sure that we were sticking to as close of the dishes that I was brought up with. So being that both my parents are from Sicily, they made sure that A, we learned the language, and B, we ate the dishes.
Okay,
and,
dishes like what?
Anything from, seafood is really big. So you'll see just like homemade linguine with, shrimp, zucchini, cherry tomatoes, garlic, and olive oil. And you think, okay, it's simple, but sometimes the simplest things are the ones that are the hardest, but the best. As simple as a pomodoro, which just means cherry tomatoes, like, fresh ingredients. But then we were able to incorporate other dishes because we do have family and friends that are from northern Italy, which is where they make prosciutto di Parma, where they do, the Reggiano, which is the cheese that all Italians, and I think most people who know Italian food, just love. And we were able to bring those in and bring those ingredients in, and therefore incorporate them in traditional dishes from Rome, which are the cacio e pepe, which is a traditional pecorino cheese with black pepper. Our norcinas, which is an Umbrian dish, so it's from the region of up north, and they do it with porcini mushrooms. They do it with they do it with a truffle oil. But it's because it's from their regions. So we were really happy that we were able to bring stuff from my family's land, which is from Sicily, which you'll think of a lot of farmers, so a lot of the vegetables, the eggplants, but also a lot from the sea, and also being able to bring in a lot of delicacies from Italy itself, whether it be from south to north.
I'm excited to hear because you have so much passion behind it when you're speaking about it. Your eyes literally light up
because it's food.
So let it.
Food is passion. It's amazing.
Food is passion. Food is life.
Yeah.
The food
family.
Here, it's family. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you have here. What will you present today?
So I think we're gonna do one of our staples from the beginning, and I know it's not from where my family's from, but it's from Italy. So it's from where our culture and our tradition is from. So we're gonna be tasting. It's called strozzaperetti alla norcina, which again, it's this Umbrian dish that we're gonna have you taste, and it's.
Can you translate that for me?
Okay, so the strozzaperetti is a homemade pasta. There's a whole tale behind it that it's called when we choke the priest. But I think it was back in the day when there used to be kind of a famine or you couldn't come in and import certain ingredients. So in order to go against it, they're like, well, I've got flour, I got water, I'm gonna make this pasta. But again, there's so many different tales behind it, but that's where they got that name. And again, like so many dishes, everything has, when it's a traditional dish, they have their name. And so this one specifically is going to be bringing in the porcini mushrooms, which we import from northern Italy, which is where they cultivate it from. And the same thing goes for the truffle oil. Like we get it from that region because that's
real.
It's real. And the way I describe it to everyone when they're like, but what is it? And I said, it's a hug for your stomach. And that's what most food should be. But specifically that dish, it's a hug for your stomach.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to my stomach being hugged.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Great. In front of me, I have.
This is a strozzapreti alla norcina, a very traditional Umbrian dish with porcini mushrooms, sweet sausage, and a truffle cream sauce.
Here we go. Okay. Mm-hmm. The garlic and that sauce is so good. That's truffle oil.
Yep. Paved with a little bit of all the flavors, just like all going.
It's perfectly mixed. It's really savory. Tell me about this beautiful dish here that looks like springtime and summer.
This is our strangozzi pasta. It is with shrimp, zucchini, cherry tomatoes, garlic, and olive oil. I always say one of the simplest dishes, but flavorful in every way.
I'm going in. I've got my spoon, right? I gotta, you mix it up a little bit. I'm using my spoon. All right. I got a little bit more to go. Oh, this is gonna be a hefty piece. I wasn't trying to, but I mean. Graciela. Okay, here we go. Oh man, this is the big one. Here we go, guys.
Yep. That's usually a good sign when you make that flirt for that pot.
I made that flirt because the vegetables are in there.
Yeah.
I taste the garlic, like you said. I really taste the tomato.
Yeah.
It's really, really good.
Simple ingredient.
It's simple, it's light. I'm not feeling like, sometimes you eat a dish, you feel very heavy and overwhelmed. I don't feel like that.
Yeah.
A taste of Italy right here in Harlem. Traditional flavor and authentic style at Bono at 3658 Broadway. Let's stay connected. Visit our website, www.what'seatingharlem.com, and follow us on our social media pages on Instagram and Facebook at What's Eating Harlem.
Nothing to do helps me forget about you. You just came out of the blue. If you only knew. Let's sit and have a cup of coffee. Let's go to a restaurant. Go to a field, pick up some strawberries.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jen Jade, and I love What's Eating Harlem. We're continuing our conversation with Ms. Lana Turner and Reverend Derek McQueen here at the St. James Presbyterian Church in Harlem on the corner of 141st Street and St. Nicholas Avenue. I encourage you to lean in because we're going to grow in knowledge.
There are too many things that we don't think about in terms of context. So this is an oasis. In 1927, St. James Presbyterian Church, as an African-American community, this is almost an oasis.
And Reverend McQueen, you said something extremely profound to me just a few minutes ago, speaking of the edifice.
Yes. When you walk by outside in any area, when you walk by, especially in Black communities, you see these beautiful buildings and they're churches. But when you come inside, there's sanctuary. There's sanctuary where you come together to gather when you are oppressed, where you come together to think about what you need to do to be community, when you don't have enough food, when you are trying to figure out what to do as a community when you do lose a dime, how you do come together and support one another. That happens in sanctuary.
Right.
And I'm not talking about sanctuary in terms of the sanctuary for worship. I'm talking about actual sanctuary of community. And these churches are building people up in the community to also have self-efficacy in sanctuary. And St. James, another tidbit about buying this building, Presbyterian churches are very different from Catholic churches in New York City, for example. When those churches were built, many immigrants moved and started coming to those churches. And you'll notice that those churches are in the middle of blocks or in the middle of streets, because nobody who had money wanted to see immigrants walking past their houses while they're on major avenues. And so Presbyterians built their churches on corners because they were debunking that. So to have an African-American congregation buy a church of this magnitude on the corner means that people are seeing you left and right. It's visual. It's no longer hidden. It's on the corner. Rendell Memorial Presbyterian Church is in between a block. St. James is not. That's a definite political statement that you're making with what you're trying to do when you're building your community.
1000%. They always say there's supposed to be a separation between church and state, but the politics that dwell within, I never knew that.
Oh, there's a lot going on here.
There's a lot going on. And even more transparency, I'm shocked because I'm a preacher's daughter and I didn't know that it was that in depth in terms of just location.
Yes.
Whoa.
Which also, I think, calls up who are the parishioners? The parishioners here.
Go there.
Because parishioners in the Black community as Presbyterians, who are we really talking about?
We are talking about people who are elite. They're doctors, they're lawyers, they're teachers. This was a respectability. Presbyterianism at that point in time gives you a certain level of respectability because of the denomination.
And to make sure I have the timing right, we're still talking about 1927.
Well, Presbyterianism in general.
In general. Right. W. Du Bois writes in his book, Negro Churches in 1900. In 1901, it's published, I believe. He talks about all the denominations to which we entered. And we definitely understand that there is this sense of respectability in Presbyterianism. So we want to join Presbyterianism because it gives us an opportunity to, our worship is respectful, our opportunities in community, it's a white denomination, it's respectful. So you're talking about the respectability politics that are very, very, very real and upward mobility. And they were housed in this sanctuary.
Anything that is going to support the race in its best light
Yes.
is what's going to come out of the Presbyterian Church. I mean, you may be able to sing a spiritual, but you have a hymn book here.
So that leads me to say, if Presbyterianism was looked at as being more elite, innovative, and progressive, what were the other denominations? How did they classify?
I mean, I know, Reverend McQueen can speak to this, but I would argue that the Episcopalians would think of themselves the same way.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you can actually look at pitting one against the other. I think they all came with congregations or people in their congregations who were leaders. You can find that in the United Methodist Church. You had Reverend Cullen, who was right there on 129th Street. You can find that in certainly Baptist churches, where you've got Reverend Adam Clayton Powell Sr. And so I think that when being careful about what we're saying, we're not saying that it was totally this or all that, but you certainly would not expect anything less than high church in some places.
And there's a theological difference.
Yes.
There's a theological and a church structure, ecclesial difference. When we're talking about the Episcopals and talking about AME, there are bishops. There's a structure that is very sort of close to the Catholic Church, and there are people that are sort of, there's a whole idea of confession and a whole idea of what you're doing, and in Presbyterianism, all of that got washed away. And even though there was predestination by the time slavery ended in the United States of America started to be a theological ideal. We're saying, well, we are the predestined and God has called us. And so that means that whatever you're doing, which is Presbyterian for very large slaveholders, don't get that twisted at all. And it was all about, well, we're predestined to be your masters. And that theology had trouble with that at the end of the Civil War, and started to really think about that. So that whole idea of predestination shifted as to all those who understand God's grace are predestined to God's blessings and predestined to God's manifestation in their lives. And that was, you didn't have to do anything. Grace is free, which is a theological difference from a lot of other denominations. You don't have to confess. There's nothing you have to do. And that's appealing as well, to say, I have been predestined to have this grace. And so every sense of being, every sensibility that you have been less than and your people are less than, when you come into this sanctuary, it is theologically different. You are owned by God, and you are owned underneath that grace. And so that fits into the respectability politics, but it's also a theological aspiration. I always say aspiration rather than reality,
Yes.
because there are things that we're always struggling for, even to this day.
That's all we have for now. Tune in next week. See you uptown.
This program was made possible by the Harlem Community Development Corporation and by the West Harlem Development Corporation. Solutions through collaboration. Also by the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce